Welcome back to my no-name channel. I'm Bruce, and I'm an anthropologist. In case this is the first time you've been to this channel, you can take a look at this, and it will explain a little bit about who I am and why I do these videos. This is another Covid-19 Bali update, and today is May 12th, 2020. And today, what have I got? First, going to talk about the numbers and a few procedures, policies, activities that have been going on here in Bali. That's the first. Second, we're going to talk about Denpasar starting to get strict, and that starts in a couple of days, and it's gonna change some things. After that, I want to talk about a public service announcement that was on social media from the Department of Immigration, specifically for foreigners, because there's been a lot of questions about visas, which is understandable. And then after that, going to talk about a YouTuber who's fanning the flames, creating some, exacerbating some divisions between foreigners and Indonesians. And then going to talk about what I talked about. I mentioned before, one or two videos ago, an interesting interview that Real Helmy did with a public health doctor down at Udayana University, and I'll have a link to the whole interview, which is really, really fascinating. You should read it. But I'm particularly interested in, he has I think 8 reasons why, possibly why, Bali has such a low number of COVID-19 cases. And then the last is just a little slice of life of Kampung Bugis. I was out in front of the house, the kayak with my granddaughter the other day, and so get a little look at this area right out here in front of the house. And so that's about it. That's what this is about, and let's get started. So today, May 12th, the latest information is that there are 314 positive cases in Bali. Went up by 3 yesterday. 210 cured. 4 deaths, so we haven't had any deaths attributed to COVID-19. Now, what's interesting, we've had 5 foreigners die in the last couple of weeks here in their beds at their hotels, but not really sure what's going on there, so I'm not going to talk about it. They're definitely not COVID-19 cases, according to authorities. And we have 100 active cases under care. And so, pretty low numbers. So where are the positive cases in Bali centered? Well, Bali is number 1, Denpasar is number 2, and Mulai, right here, is number 3. And I'm going to be talking about what Denpasar does shortly. What about Bondalem, which is our village here, over in the Dijaga area, and the government has been providing aid for them while they're locked down because of the cases that they have there, and so they've been providing food and other basic necessities. And the same in Bali for the villages that have been affected by the coronavirus in Bali. So the government is taking an active role in making sure that citizens are taken care of, are safe, while they're forced to wait out the quarantine period. And we've got 2 new COVID-19 PCR testing labs now. The government's added one at Udayana University, the second one at Warmadewa University, and now we can do 450 swab samples a day. So this has increased the ability of health authorities to keep track of the virus, test people that are suspected of being infected, in particular are returning migrant workers. And so that's a positive thing. And Bali has a 60% recovery rate from the virus so far, which puts it far above any place else in Indonesia, any other province in Indonesia. And President Jokowi has congratulated Balinese governmental and health authorities on the job they're doing. And of course, everybody wants to see Bali open up as soon as possible because of all the money the tourists bring in here. And I'm hoping that eventually the economy will be diversified, that somebody will figure out that we need to get off of this dependence on tourism. It's been brought up again and again. The governor was complaining the other day about how now that we have the virus, people are gone, what's left, the Balinese are left, the residents of Bali, and we need to diversify. We need to diversify in order to regenerate the island, which is being plowed under by concrete, or plowed over by concrete, hotels, villas, swimming pools, and we see where that leaves us in these kind of situations. Now, my little rant about over-reliance on tourism, and what else? Local authorities in Singaraja have been testing people entering the office, Bupati's office, and they've been doing mass checks and temperature checks as well. I have my temperature gun here that my granddaughter has great fun playing with, testing herself, her friends, me, her grandmother, her Uncle Sam, or anybody that's in the house. And so the police have been very proactive during this whole situation. I think all over the island, but certainly up here in Singaraja. And so that's a real positive. From shutting down places that should be shut down to handing out masks for free in cases where people don't have masks, and reminding people that they need to follow the rules for social distancing. So great job from the police. And one more thing here. Let's start off with the harbor of Gilimanuk. Well, the harbors and the airports were closed to keep people from coming in, trying to keep the people that were infected coming into Bali, and that's been a problem all over the world. The outside cases, and now the harbor has been, well, the harbor's been open as some planes as well, carrying food, logistical supplies, but last week there was a buildup of motorbikes at the harbor in Gilimanuk, people wanting to go home, and so the authorities there talked with the authorities in the harbor in Java, and people that are here working. We have a lot of people that come and work here from other islands, especially Java. A lot of them are construction workers or people who work in restaurants, hotels, and now that businesses have been shut down, so many businesses have been shut down, they don't have anything to do, they want to go home, and so the people at the harbor, Gilimanuk, decided to let people leave. They have to have a letter explaining that there's no need for them to be here, that they're healthy, they're not leaving with the virus, and that they have a KTP, an identity card that is not from Bali. So they have an identity card from Java in this case that they're going back. And this is encouraging people not to try to do this for Mudik. There's still this whole question of Mudik and people trying to get home for Mudik. And we have another 12 days of fasting left before Idul Fitri, Lebaran. And so the government is trying to be flexible about the situation. And I think that if you've got people that are working here, but they don't have a place to stay anymore, they don't have any income, they need to go home, and they're not sick, letting them go home, I think, is the right thing to do. Okay. Next, Denpasar is getting strict. So, what's happening in Denpasar? Well, the situation in Denpasar is number 2 in positive cases. There hasn't been a large increase recently, but in order to play it safe, local authorities, with the permission of the governor of Bali, have decided to, starting May 15th, Denpasar will be implementing restrictions on community activities, and there are going to be 11 checkpoints set up around the city. People will be checked, mask, temperatures, KTPs, ask where they're going, what their purpose is, where they're from, and if they don't have a valid reason to be coming into Denpasar, they'll be told to go home. So this is called PKM, and I'm translating it as restrictions on community activities. There's other interpretations, of what that is. But this is different from what's being carried out in red zones, especially in Java, called PSBB, which is large-scale social restrictions. And the government has made it clear that the situation is not such that they need to do the large-scale social restrictions because activities need to go on, keep commerce going, people need to go shopping, businesses that can be open should still be able to be open, but they want to control people gathering, people not wearing masks, people wandering around, collecting in areas, because as Pak Dewa Gede Rai, a spokesman for the Denpasar COVID-19 task force, said, people have been acting like nothing's happening, like this isn't serious, and he noted that there still may be many asymptomatic people around, as well as people under active supervision, active observation, and so he wants to keep people, members of the public, from going outside and acting if nothing's going on, and he said that he's extremely concerned because Denpasar is not yet free of COVID-19. So this is going to go on from May 15th until June 14th. As of today, that's the idea. And this is going to be based on a village, a Kelurahan level. And so what people have been doing here in Bali is interpreting some of the suggestions by the government in their own way. So some more strict than others. It's bothered some people, especially some foreigners. because it's not always really clear what's happening. So some villages are closed to anybody but village residents, some are open. Most of the beaches are closed, a few apparently are still open, like here. This is not really a beach. I'm not sure what's going on in Molina. That would be interesting to see. Maybe I'll get out and check that out. But here, this isn't really a beach. This is a working area, fishing villages here, and so nothing's shut down here. That's why I was able to go out in the kayak with Zoe. And so Denpasar is going to get strict. They're going to be checking on people, and there are apparently not going to be any sanctions at this point, not any official punishments, but those are possible if the situation does not get any better. And so we'll see what's happening in Denpasar. And news from immigration for foreigners. There's been a lot of concern, a lot of anxiety from foreigners because of the visa situation, and rightly so. The cost for overstaying your visa is $100 a day. It's not cheap, and so people are worried about not being in compliance with visa regulations. And so the Department of Immigration has put out a public service notice on social media, and I'm going to put each one of the little posters, cards, that they have. And so what are they? One is any state permit that has been granted will be given an emergency extension. This is automatic. Number two, people do not need to go into the immigration to do this. There was originally a lot of anxiety and some panic, and there were people packed into immigration, lined up right next to each other. Immigration is granting these extensions automatically. They're for free, which is great. And they're valid until the state of emergency is declared over. It's currently going to extend until May 29th. My guess is that they're going to extend it again, but that's just a guess on my part. And if your state permit can be extended still after the state of emergency is over, you'll be allowed to extend it. You can apply for an extension, and so the government, the immigration department is being really flexible on this, and that's great to see. People need to follow the government rules, guidelines, regulations for social and physical distancing. I think that's a reminder from them because I know some people aren't. And finally, last point, number 7, check the immigration website. And there's a link on the poster, this poster number 7. There's a link here. Check the website for updates to make sure that you know exactly what's going on. So it's nice to see immigration taking a very proactive stance in this, and hopefully this will make foreigners here, including people like me who have long-term stays, more comfortable. And YouTubers fanning the flames. So I've talked before about some of the tensions that have been going on in social media, mostly, but occasionally you see reports of people having some unpleasant interactions in real life. And so there was a YouTube that I saw yesterday. It's been out for, I think, 48 hours. It's got about 2,400 hits already, and generated a lot of negative comments because it's got a title about racism. Is Bali racist? And question mark. And so the creator of this video in response to this criticism, said, well, look, it says, it's a question mark, is Bali racist? Well, racism is a pretty loaded word, especially these days when there have been a lot of whining from foreigners about, oh, Bali's racist. The locals get to do this and we don't get to do it. There are some restrictions, a lot for foreigners, and for regular people as well. It's like, well, they're letting locals onto the beach. Well, some of the locals work. They have to get there to work, to fish, whatever. If they're allowed to go surfing there, they're allowed to go surfing there. I don't know the situation. But videos like this, using the term racist, and it's just clickbait. He could have said what he wanted to say with certainly a different title. And he's been pretty ingenuous about his comments to people criticizing him, and it's fanned the flames. There's a lot of the go home if you don't like it. It makes all of us here, all of the foreigners here, look bad. There are ways to say things and ways not to say things, and this is not the way to say things. If you haven't figured out how to live in Bali and how to communicate with people locally and what's going to set them off, yeah, well, you need to learn it, because this is not the thing to put there, unless you're trying to build up your viewership. So, not good. We don't need this kind of stuff now. We need people together. We're foreigners, we're guests. Follow the rules, relax, chill out, read a book, take a class, sleep, drink beer at home, have a good time. Okay, so now I said, I think the last two videos actually, I was going to talk about why we have these relatively low numbers in Bali. And there's been so many theories, and I've talked about those before. Well, there was an interview came out now, I think it's maybe almost 2 weeks ago, done by Rio Helmi, who's a well-known photographer and writer, among other things in Bali. He's written some really interesting books, takes some gorgeous photographs, writes very well. And he did an interview with a public health doctor who works out of Udayana University, and Dr. Pande Januraga. Okay, I can't read my writing. Dr. Pande Januraga. And so this is a really interesting interview, and I encourage you to read the whole thing. The link is down below. I just want to talk about this question: why Bali? Why are our numbers so low? Well, okay, what did he say? He said, okay, well, the weather, the heat and humidity. Okay, he says it's been scientifically proven that the virus doesn't do as well in heat and humidity. It doesn't last as long. But how long? It's not clear. Does that play a role? Yeah, it seems to play a role. The heat and humidity seems to play a role. But heat and humidity is not working in Singapore, where their cases have just exploded. But that's a different story. Maybe I'll talk about that in the weekly news around Bali and Asia. My wife is over here sneaking around. And I'm going to do a video with her cooking. She should do, I was trying to get her to do some videos. Where are you going? I was trying to get her to do some videos of her Indonesian cooking. She's a great cook. And she could definitely get some people to watch some of the things she makes. Really, really good cook. And she's had a number of cooking businesses. Oh, anyway. Okay. So, what did the good doctors say about why we seem to have less cases in Bali? So, there's heat and humidity. Second, he said lack of public transportation. So, public transportation has always been a problem here. There's less and less these days, and so you don't have people traveling in buses jammed together like you see, say, in Thailand or Jakarta. There are buses, but that's not a real common form of transportation these days. BMOs have been phased out in a lot of places. We still have BMOs, but there's not a lot of public transportation, so there's not a lot of people sitting together. People tend to travel on motorbikes or vehicles, and especially tourists who will rent a car or have a driver or rent a motorbike, and so you don't have that close social contact. Tourist attractions tend to be outside in open places, not inside. We have a couple of museums, but unfortunately they're really not anything special. So a lot of the stuff is outside, a lot of tourist attractions are outside, so there's more of a chance to have some distance between people. And hotels, the architecture of hotels, he said, are, there's a specific type of architecture, and a lot of people stay in these hotels that have villa-style bungalows, separate rooms, balconies, there's private villas, and so there's a variety of different architectural styles that attract tourists from different countries in certain ways. And so there's less of a kind of the traditional hotel. We have those, so everybody's packed in together. Again, more open spaces. I like this one. The culture of hugging and kissing, he said, is not as prevalent in Bali. Yeah, I mean, you don't find people when they greet each other, hugging each other, and doing the kissing on the cheeks. That's not really the way people greet each other here, and so there's less physical contact. Now, this is one I'm not really in agreement with 100%. He said settlement in Bali is not as dense as it is in places like Jakarta or Java. Well, you can see here, you look at a video, and when you look at this one that's coming up the last couple of minutes, is me out with Zoe in the kayak in front of the Kampung. These are dense, and when I lived in Hindu village, inland, not on the ocean, all these villages here along the ocean are all densely populated, houses right next to each other. And when I lived inland, it was pretty much the same thing. People's houses are right next to each other. And you see settlement patterns are actually, even out in the mountains, you'll see all this space, and then you see these houses jammed in next to each other. So I'm not quite in agreement with that one. I think he underestimates the settlement patterns here. The Bali government had a quick response to this, and was banning flights coming in from the hotspot in China in particular, right off the bat, and they've been pretty proactive and pretty transparent for the most part, and so that's a real positive thing that he mentions. And then his last one is one that I've mentioned before: luck. Maybe we're just lucky. Who knows? But we're at, what did I say, 314 cases. That's pretty good compared to a lot of places in the country. And so that is the update for today. And I'm going to end this with a little video of the kampung, and you can see something about where we live, another way of life. This is much different than most of the tourists see or live in, or even the expats. And so, stay at home unless you need to get out. If you get out, keep your social distance, enjoy yourself, stay safe, and be kind to someone. So the Kampung Bugis skyline, how much it has changed over 30 years. When I came here, there was no road. There was a little tiny sidewalk. This what I call a road. The street is pretty tiny now, but before it was really tiny. No 2-story or 3-story houses. That's something that, for better or worse, Sue and I brought here when we built the first 2-story house, which hers is such a mess. She's put up all these panels. I've never seen it from over here. So she's put up all these panels there to protect against the rain and the wind, because she cooks out there. She cooks in, she's got, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4 different kitchens here, depending on what she's making. And so, you know, that was the first 2-story house. And nobody built a 2-story house for a while, and then somebody did. And then eventually, I don't know how many years later, 6 years later, 7 years later, we bought the rambutan house, and we built the 3 stories, and that really set people off building extra story houses, because, well, this is a crowded kampung. You can see that these houses are very narrow, and so the only way you can fit more people in is to go up, which is exactly what we did. And so they've gone up. And we built the rooftop garden, and so everybody else started building rooftop gardens. And so you've got one over there, and there's one house back behind there, and over there you got another one. And so as one of my nephews said, whatever you do, they're gonna copy it. So I'm wondering what I'm going to do next. I painted my house blue, and blue became a popular color. So maybe I'm like an Instagram influencer. Who knows? Okay, time to go in. I've got some stuff to do today, and I think I've gotten the vitamin D that Mercedes keeps telling me. Daddy, get out in the sun. Don't just stay in your room all the time. So, time to go in.